Prime Minister, you're just about to go to meet some child refugees in a school. Do you feel vindicated by an approach that says that those refugees should stay here in the region when some have criticised you back home for not saying more should come to the United Kingdom?
Well, I think it's very important, as the UK government has done since the beginning of the Syrian crisis, that we do predominantly provide aid in the region so we can support people so they're close to home. So when we do see a peaceful solution to the conflict in Syria and people are able to return home, they're able to do that. But that while they are refugees in countries like Jordan, which I'll be visiting some refugees today, we actually help provide education and training so they have the skills they need when they finally return home.
So the kids should stay here in the region?
I think it's important that we support. Of course, we're taking refugee children into the United Kingdom, but the view we took was that it was important to ensure that those we bring to the United Kingdom, those who are most vulnerable, who particularly require the help and support that we can give in the UK. But for the majority, we can help far more refugees by the aid we're putting into the region. Our total aid as a result of the Syrian crisis is £2.3 billion. We've been the second biggest bilateral donor overall. That means we have been providing food, water, medical supplies and, yes, education and training to young people, to refugees, to help them with their futures.
On Saudi Arabia, isn't it just the reality that you are not going to raise with King Salman the issue of jailed dissidents, the issue of the use by the Saudis of cluster bombs made in Britain against Yemen?
Well, you have no difficulty in raising hard issues with those that we meet with, whether be it in Saudi Arabia or elsewhere around the world. What matters is that we have the relationship of engagement that enables us to do that. But we will also be talking about the very important relationship the UK has with Saudi Arabia, an important relationship, yes, in terms of trade, but also in terms of security. Our cooperation, and the Saudis' cooperation with us, has helped to save lives in the UK.
Is there a pattern developing in your foreign trips? People are relating it to Brexit. Are we downplaying human rights concerns with your visits to Saudi Arabia, to Turkey? Where's the strong British tradition of standing up for human rights?
The strong British tradition of standing up for human rights is there. The strong British tradition of standing up for British national interest is there. I want to see the United Kingdom as a truly global Britain, outward-looking, around the world, trading around the world. Yes, a good, continuing, deep partnership with the European Union, but also trading and working with others around the whole of the globe. That's what we will be doing in future. That's what I'm working on. Yes, it's about trade. That's about jobs back home in the United Kingdom. But it's also about our security. Security for the UK and us working with others to maintain security around the world.
So, Prime Minister, you mentioned that phrase, truly global nation in the future, but we're standing here in Jordan. Currently, we have a free trade arrangement with Jordan through the EU. I mean, the risk is we lose that. So it's not about being more global. How do you protect what we've got already in terms of how global we are?
No, it will be possible for us to continue trade arrangements with countries where we've previously had them through the EU once we're outside the European Union. But it also means that we can negotiate our own free trade arrangements with various parts of the world. I think that's going to be important to us. We want to have a deep and special partnership continuing with the European Union. But yes, we want to build our relationships with old friends and new allies alike around the world.
In terms of your strategic objectives before roughly this point, we're now through the gate of Article 50, you wanted pre-negotiations, we didn't get them. You wanted parallel negotiations on the exit deal and Article 50, they've said no. You talked about no deal, it doesn't look like anybody believes that threat. Haven't your key strategic aims not been hit as we trigger Article 50?
No, you're quite wrong. I mean, let's look at the whole question of the where we end up at the end of this negotiation. Will we have looked at both the withdrawal and the future relationship? That's what's important. That's what I'm asking for, and that's what I believe increasingly we will see. You will see from the European Union, various people have commented that they think we should get on to looking at that future relationship soon, and we will do that. What's important is that when we leave the EU, people know what the future relationship is. It's common sense, it's pragmatic for people, it's pragmatic for businesses, and I believe that's what we'll be working for. I think it's what both sides will be working for.
On no deal, in your Lancaster House speech, the talk around that was turning us into a kind of Singapore-style haven. After that, Boris Johnson says actually no deal is perfectly okay, and then in the Article 50 letter there was this sort of implied security threat. It just seems slightly chaotic.
No, what we've said is very clear, that we expect to get and we want to get the best possible deal for the United Kingdom. I believe that's possible because it won't just be a good deal for us, it will be a good deal for the rest of the European Union. On the security issue, it's a very practical reason for raising it in the letter. We're currently a member of certain programmes, certain systems around Europe that help us to cooperate on exchanging information about terrorists, but also about criminals. Once we leave the EU, our membership of those systems lapses. So it's right that as part of the negotiations, we'll be talking to the European Union about how we can continue with those arrangements. It's in our interests, it's also in theirs.
If you're confident that no deal can be better than a bad deal, why not publish some evidence, independent evidence, to prove that, as the committee suggests today?
Well, I'm very clear that we will be working to get the best possible deal for the UK. As I said in the Article 50 letter, I set out what would be a no-deal situation, but I also said I don't think that's in anybody's interests. We will be working to get the best possible deal in the British national interest. I believe that deal will be good for the European Union as well. I believe both sides will be working to ensure we have a good, positive, deep and special partnership going into the future.
Can you clarify that you accept what the European Council suggested, which is that the final deal will be done as a third country status under a unanimous vote with everyone having a veto?
There's obviously a legal situation in terms of how the European Union can conduct trade negotiations. I'm clear that by the point at which we leave the European Union, it's right that everybody should know what the future arrangement, the future relationship, that future partnership between us and the European Union will be. That's the sensible thing. It's a pragmatic way to look at this, and I believe that's what we'll do.
And you still think that can be done within 2 years?
Yes.
OK, just lastly, do you admit that now this judgment, the people made a judgment, but your decisions on leaving the single market and on leaving the customs union, this is now on you. This was your judgment, and if it goes wrong, it's the responsibility of Prime Minister May.
The British people chose to leave the European Union. I've set out very clearly, the European Union has made clear that the membership of the single market effectively means membership of the European Union. People have decided not to be members of the European Union, so our relationship with the single market will be a different one in future. But that doesn't mean it can't be a really good trade relationship that will enable our firms to have free access to the single market and continue to trade in ways that they have done in the past.